So we had a tremendous growth in the 70s. I think the third or fourth richest country on earth.
China doing copies, USA innovate and Europe regulate.
Par biznesu un politiku, par zaļo kursu un citām globālajām kustībām un tendencēm sarunas par svarīgāko uzņēmējiem Latvijas Tirdzniecības un Rūpniecības kameras raidierakstā Uzņēmēju balss.
Hello for everybody, welcome to Latvian Chamber of Commerce studio. Today we have a very good guest. It's my best friend from Sweden, Stefan Muchler. Thanks, Stefan, for your time and visiting Latvia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for excellent hosting.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, we know each other approx 10 years, and actually we met in Eurochambers. Then Latvian Chamber of Commerce as the Swedish Chamber are Eurochambers member, and Stefan was 8 years deputy president. Yeah, and I prepared some questions for Stefan. First of all, I know you was in Latvia some last time it was some. Actually, you visit time by time Latvia, but you was in Chamber some 10 years ago when Valdemars Gavars was the CEO.
Even more, it was in the 90s. So I've been traveling to Latvia and to Riga many times, and I've seen the development. It's quite impressive over these decades.
But how I understand from side, our development looks very fast. Yeah,
it does actually. I mean, if you compare to Sweden, where we had a slower development, and it's obviously it's you can see it, you can smell the development, and even if you have had some hard years, you can see the development. And the best way of actually realize what's going on is to go back in a memory and say, what was it look like? How did for instance, the chamber building look like in the 90s and early 20s. So it's for me, it's a tremendous development.
Okay, thank you. Because from inside, sometimes we have the feeling here we have kind of stagnation. But it's good to hear from a side.
Stagnation is very interesting, because I have the same when you sit down in your organization and say, "Oh, haven't we renewed ourselves?" And I say, "Well, go back and take the magazine, for instance, that we produced 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you show it to the staff member and say, oh, yeah, we have been improving." So but from day to day, it's not so easy to see, but if you visit now and then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's explain about Swedish system of Chamber of Commerce, because in Latvia we have, as we are a small country, we have one chamber. We have of course branches, but anyway we have one chamber. How the system is in Sweden? Because I know you from one hand you represented south part of Sweden,
yes,
but from other hand you represent all Sweden. How it works in Sweden?
In Sweden we have 11 regional chambers. And my chamber, if I am allowed to use that word, framing, my chamber is in the most southern part. So if you draw a line from, let's say, Falkenberg to Västervik and everything south of that. And then we have another 2 big chambers in Stockholm and Gothenburg, and then obviously another 8. And we are independent from each other, but we have a network, and this network is representing the Swedish chambers on the international level, as I'm representing Swedish chambers in Eurochamber.
Mm-hmm. That's why you don't have kind of roof organization, but you just some way to decide because your personality, because I think you are most active, and the other colleagues will say, okay, Stefan, as you're well active, please present all of us.
I've been around for a while, so probably that's why. Yeah. But I think that's very typical for Sweden, because we are very centralized, and the regional environment is very different from northern Sweden to southern Sweden. And I think for the understanding of what is needed to be developed in the respective regions, you really have to be independent and be able to phrase that towards the government in Sweden, because they make the decisions.
Okay, thanks. And yesterday we had a very good conversation about Swedish economy, and maybe bit explain what happens now, and bit explain maybe some short history, because I remember you said some was different and as well difficult times, because we all in Latvia, in Baltic say, and actually we have some big part of our society, then we discuss between us, we want to live the same like in Scandinavia, in Sweden. how you succeed? How was the history from last maybe 200 years? Because I remember that yesterday. So
200 years is very good, because if you go back, and I think that many Swedes don't realize that when modern Sweden started to develop was in the early 19th century. We actually were in a very, very bad situation. Finland used to be a part of Sweden until 1809. And we were really, really a poor country. But then there happened a lot of things, actually. We had some reforms when it comes to schools. All the kids were forced to go to school to learn to read and write. We had the financial system developed with saving banks, and we had some more liberal regulations when it comes to handicrafts and to companies. And of course, the construction of the railways. And Sweden is a quite big country geographically. So it meant a lot. So you can develop the economies of scale, and you could use the natural resources. But this was not made for over a decade or two, but that's where it started. And I think very few Swedes actually realized that. And then, of course, we didn't participate in neither the First nor the Second World War, and it gave us a very good position. So we had a tremendous growth, and were actually in the 70s, I think, the third or fourth richest country on earth. A position we weren't able to hold, because we increased the taxes, and we got in problems in the 70s. We had very high inflation, and then we had a new reform in the 90s. The tax system was changed, so we had a new period of a short new period of growth. But now we are more back to where we need to do structural reforms. So this is, but of course, during the period from the Second World War and on especially to the 90s, and still we developed the welfare state that has been, of course, many Swedes could benefit from. I think that's been, especially in the 70s, it was a role model for many countries all over the world. But they didn't actually realize, when we were taxating people as heavy as we were at that time, you can't go on forever with that kind of policy.
Okay, I understand the basics was education, liberal economy, finance system,
infrastructure.
Infrastructure. But you said the very fast growth was after the Second World War, but this kind of more social system, more higher taxes, it came after this?
After the second, I mean, this started already in the early 20th century, before or after the First World War. We had the natural resources, we had innovations, we had as we had these natural resources, it was built on economies of scale, of engineering, understanding of quality. And exports has always been very, very crucial for Sweden, and we succeeded. But then, of course, after the Second World War, when Europe was in a very, very bad hurt from bombings from the war, we had an advantage. Of course, we could deliver from day one, so that gave us an advantage, of course.
But that, I will say, how I understand this, more or less high taxation came together with this development, or they came a bit after?
It came a bit after, because when the government in Sweden, we saw the development, the positive development, and everyone expected that, we should get more from the state, from the government.
All will start debating some benefits.
More benefits, and the only way for the government that they at that time thought that it was possible was to increase taxation, which led to, and then we had an inflation-based economy, which led to we had to devaluate our currency. In that many times, even in the 80s, it was a 16% devaluation at one time, and this of course means that we are getting poorer and poorer, relatively seen, and this was because the currency was too weak because of this inflation that grew then in the 70s. And we had a 100% deduction of interest rates. So it was created by the politicians. Borrow money, and we accept the inflation, and we had a growth. What we did, actually, we exported our unemployment, because it didn't force the companies to be too competitive. And at that time, it was okay because almost the most cost that you had in production was Swedish krona. Today it doesn't work because you have a lot of goods that you need to produce a car or whatever it is that you buy in euros or in dollar or whatever. So then you need to protect your currency in a better way.
Sarunas par svarīgāko uzņēmējiem Latvijas Tirdzniecības un Rūpniecības kameras raidierakstā Uzņēmēju balss.
Okay, you said then currently as well you are looking for or you need kind of structural reforms. What you see? What is your vision about the next Swedish movement? How you see in which direction Swedes must go?
To some extent, we still do have to do something about the taxes. They are much better than they used to be before, but we need to improve our infrastructure, roads and railways. And this is to make the regions be able to grow. I mean, if you have a larger region for labor market, for housing, it's more efficient, and that's one reason to invest more heavy in infrastructure. Of course, the educational system, we need to do something about it. We have some very good schools, but on average, we are performing quite poor in the PISA studies, as you probably know. And we have to do something about it.
And as we all know, this current geopolitical situation, and Sweden many times or a very long time was neutral country. Now you just few time ago joined the NATO. How you will explain what was discussions in society, in politicians? Are you lucky then you joined the NATO? How you see the situation from your side?
It's a very good question, and it goes back to these 200 years, because we at 200 years ago with this idea of Sweden staying out of all coalitions and being neutrally in if there would be a conflict, and it served us well. We thought during the Second World War, and everyone thought, well, that might be a way, but then we realized, we saw the Russian aggression and what's going on. And we have our history with the Russians, actually with Swedish eyes captured Finland from us in 1809. So we really know what it's all about. And when I did my military service, it was quite clear, and it was a bit ridiculous. We were not allowed to talk about the Russians as the enemy, but everyone knew the Russian tanks, what they looked like, and how they should be defeated, etc. But then the situation changed, obviously, and we realized, no, we can't be on ourselves anymore, because we need to join forces. And it came very quickly. I mean, after the full invasion from Russian side, everyone realized, no, it doesn't work anymore. We really have to do joint forces. And we have had a very deep, as I understand, I have some contacts in the government, a discussion with the Finns, and they realized the same. And they had another situation, but the same. We were in the same boat, so they realized we have to be NATO members. We can contribute to the defense of the Baltics, the Nordics, and other parts of NATO. So, and I think it happened very quick. And if you had asked me 10 years ago, will Sweden be a member of NATO? I was personally very much in favor of that idea, but I didn't believe it. But it happened so fast, and I think the changes in Russia and what's going on actually led to a situation where even the most left-wing people in Sweden realized, no, it doesn't work anymore. We have to do joint forces because we are in the same boat.
Yeah, thank you. Because from our point of view, because was very supportive, and we are very lucky when you joined, because now we feel ourselves much more secure, because of course Sweden and Finland, they are bigger countries, but as well, if we compare with Russia, we are small, and I'm sure then we only together, if we will create kind of security system, this only way how can we defend ourselves.
And I think that's a very good point, because I think it goes, if you take a joint Nordics, the joint Baltics together, we are a very strong force. Not only, even in a European perspective, if you take the respective country one by one, of course we are small players, But if we make joint forces, and I think the idea of making joint forces with the Baltics and the Nordics has grown faster and more than ever. So this idea of keeping the Northern Europe part together has really grown.
Yeah. Let's do this more active.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's bit move to Europe direction, and as I start this discussion about the Eurochambers, as we know, the development, Europe's development, it's slower than United States, for example. And what you see, our common organization Eurochambers must do, what because the Eurochambers is the biggest entrepreneurs organization in Europe, and what we must do for kind of pushing the European society or politics to make decisions which will help for more faster this economics development.
I think first of all we have to realize that we can't regulate and have these demands for reports from companies. That doesn't create entrepreneurship, and there is a tendency in Europe that we have to deal with the environment. Let's regulate it. Let's implement CSRD, etc. And we think that will solve the problem. I mean, if you take the environmental problem, it has to be dealt with on a global scale. And of course, it's good to have high ambitions, but we can't just sell out our competitiveness. So we really have a discussion about that. And then we have a lot of regulations in different fields that I think go too far. It should be easier to be an entrepreneur. It should be easier to get access to the European markets. We talk about the common market. Partly it is, partly it is not because of national regulations. I think we have to work further on that. And give you one example. I heard from the Norwegian guy who is in charge of these oil funds that they have enormous amounts of money, and he stated it a bit, as he said, exaggerated, but still in Europe we had already have regulations about artificial intelligence, but we have very little of artificial intelligence. In the US, they have no regulations, but a lot of artificial intelligence. I think this is spirit of entrepreneurs that is failing a bit, and we really need our politicians to realize that you can't tax them too much, you can't ask them to report or regulate the markets. And that's a really tough task for Eurochamber.
I hear that, it's not kind of message, but kind of views how it's different between China, United States, and Europe. Then in China doing copies, USA innovate, and Europe regulate. And I think this is the difference between those economies. But what is your vision about Europe's economy as such? We was telling then we need less do less regulation, but maybe you see the other kind of approaches, how you see in your visions the Europe's economy.
I talked about infrastructure in Sweden. I think that goes for Europe too. If you travel around in Europe, you see there are bottlenecks in railways, in motorways, etc. And we need to fix that, because it used to be an advantage, but it's not an advantage anymore, because other countries, other continents, China, etc., has been building high-speed trains, has been building new airports, has building railway roads, etc., in an extent that we haven't. And of course that creates competitiveness if you're able to transport labor force or goods smooth, and you can rely on the system. So I think that's a very important one. And I think also it's important, as we were, to look into the common market, European, and to realize that there are still a lot of hindrances that you have to deal with. You have the language problem, of course. In the US, you all speak English, and in China the same. But we have different language. Okay, we all speak English, but to understand the market, the local regional market, there is you need to know Latvian or Finnish or whatever to be active on that market. So I think that's and I think one thing that's important is to keep up the contacts between young people. That young people travel around, not only go to US or China or Asia, whatever, but they should travel around in Europe to learn to know their own continent better, to realize what we actually have here. We have fantastic facilities, but it should be developed faster, not regulated.
Okay, 3 things: infrastructure, common market, and young people.
I think young people are very crucial, because if you create contacts that last for a lifetime, it's also good for business.
But I don't know exactly what the birth rate in your country, but actually this is the big issue, a big challenge for
I think we all
not only in Europe.
No, in Sweden we have some problems with that, of course, and in Europe we have too few kids and babies, to be honest.
Infrastructure, question of infrastructure now, it's painful question locally, because we still part of this Rail Baltica project, but they have many issues, and actually we need to improve our approach how to manage this kind of projects. But okay, finally I will ask the question from as you anyway you've been in Latvia many times and you see this development, but from our side, what we see, if we compare, for example, Baltic countries, then Estonians are more closer to Finns. They some kind of business culture came and innovations came from Finland. If you talk about Lithuania, they are a bit closer to Poland, and Latvia stay in middle. And actually, we had some previous connections as well with Russia. There was the railway and then this transition things and finance sector. And currently we in kind of we are preparing kind of new jump. But what is your view from side? What is the opportunities for Latvia? What we need to move? What is our right direction? How it's your rule from side?
Oh, that's a simple question. I think it's quite interesting. Latvia, in my understanding, is the mentality is more like the Swedish one, and I think you should go that direction. Yeah, I know, for instance, that we import a lot from Latvia, but it's not that sophisticated. It's a lot of wooden products, and you should go further on developing that, go on the value chain, because I think there is a market for it in Sweden. And I know actually Swedish export to Latvia is less than the Lithuanian and Estonia. So I think you could do something about it. And I think now is the time, because the understanding and the interest of what's going on around the Baltic Sea is on the same level that it was in 1990 after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and now it's because of Putin and his aggression in Ukraine, and we realize we have to stick together, and trade is one part of that. So I think you have to. There is never an easy solution to this kind of a complex, but to develop further, to educate people, and to go on the value chain so that you develop more within the country and sell more sophisticated products. It's easy to say, but I think it's very hard to get around that.
Okay, Stefan, once again, thank you for your time and visit Latvia, and thank you for this conversation, and I hope that many of our members will see, and of course the discussions about the Latvia future and vision as well. This your ideas will help us. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you at your anniversary in December.
Thank you.
Par biznesu un politiku, par zaļo kursu un citām globālajām kustībām un tendencēm sarunas par svarīgāko uzņēmējiem Latvijas Tirdzniecības un Rūpniecības kameras raidierakstā Uzņēmēju balss.